Police Commissioner says application for future assemblies will be assessed based on risk. Hong Kong rescuers to Turkey return home to heroes' welcome. Beijing and Washington ties still strained as a result of balloon saga. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. The Commissioner of the Hong Kong Police Force, Raymond Siu, said the police have issued 19 letters of no objection to parades and rallies since the pandemic. He added that the officials will review each application individually to consider factors such as national security and public safety and order. Mimo Singha reports.
With Hong Kong scrapping social distancing measures and most of its COVID restrictions, gatherings and assemblies are effectively no longer banned. Commissioner of Police Raymond Siu said the police have issued 19 letters of no objection to school and festive activities so far this year, with participants ranging from 50 to 800. Siu said the police have not yet received any applications for large-scale assemblies, adding that officials will review each application on an individual risk assessment basis, considering factors such as public safety and national security. Moreover, the commissioner said the police cannot rule out that some people may take advantage of rallies or assemblies to cause trouble and violate the law, emphasizing that authorities will need to be cautious with their handling of each application. Meanwhile, the investigation of the 6,000 cases related to the anti-extradition law amendment bill movement has not yet been completed, even though the incident took place 3 years ago. Siu said the police have not given up on investigating those cases, and follow-up action will be announced within this month, explaining the prolonged investigation process is due to the case's complexity, including the need to review lengthy CCTV footage. Earlier, the police announced more than 70% of criminal cases last year involved online fraud. To stop the scenario from worsening, Siu said the authorities will continue to raise awareness about the dangers posed by fraud. This will be done by producing short videos, as well as asking local mobile telecommunications companies to add alert messages to some high-risk overseas calls. Mimo Singha, TVB News.
Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development Algernon Yao said there are plenty of room for cooperation between the Middle East and Hong Kong. He's also confident the city's economy will improve in the second half of the year. Yao, who accompanied Chief Executive John Lee during his 8-day trip to the Middle East, said the development strategies between the two places are very similar. He added the Central Asian markets have great potential, and looking ahead, the Commerce Secretary said China and Africa's trade ties could strengthen. As for the city's economy, Yao said many large exhibitions have resumed in the city, meaning Hong Kong remains attractive. He added the government will negotiate with the tourism sector to solve manpower shortage issues. 10 defendants were charged in relation to a protest in Yau Ma Tei involving the Poly University siege during the anti-government protests in 2019. 9 defendants, all men, were today found guilty of rioting. The remaining defendant, an 18-year-old student, pleaded guilty to her charge. The judge noted all 9 male defendants had dark-colored clothes on at the time, meaning they shared the same values during the anti-government protest. The judge added they were trying to give encouragement to other protesters on site to disrupt social order. Sentencing for the 10 people will take place on March 11th. The SAR sent a team of 59 people to help with rescue efforts after the earthquake in Turkey. The search and rescue team returned from Turkey late last night and were reunited with their families. They were also welcomed by the chief executive as well as Turkish people living in Hong Kong.
A hero's welcome. Love and gratitude filled the air. Having spent more than a week looking for survivors from a quake-devastated region in Turkey, the SAR rescue team returned to Hong Kong last night and were greeted by loved ones. Like this rescuer who teared up, saying he's afraid his 10-month-old baby boy couldn't recognize him. Some Turkish expats in the city came to the airport to welcome the Hong Kong rescue team home.
They may lose their life when they are rescuing our people. So we just want to say thank you for taking the risk.
I feel like the least I could do is just show the team that went there some support, and show them that their efforts and works are greatly appreciated by us as the Turkish community that is here.
The Turkish Consul General in Hong Kong thanked the SAR and China for deploying rescue teams after the quake happened.
This earthquake is really very disastrous. Our pain is huge. The human lives loss is immense. We are very grateful to the search and rescue team. They saved 4 lives, which is miraculous. That creates an eternal connection between these people they saved. So we are very grateful to them. They are heroes for us.
Chief Executive John Lee was at the ceremony to welcome the 59-strong rescue team.
My colleagues in the team, your brave efforts are held in high regard by the people of Turkey and the Hong Kong SAR, and you should justifiably take pride in your exemplary performance in this search and rescue mission.
The rescue team's commander shared the difficulties they faced during the mission.
And every night, the weather is freezing cold, and we are just barely enough to have a warm sleep. This is our first mission overseas, and learning from the Chinese team, China rescue team, is really helpful for us to develop our own overseas rescue team in the future.
Meanwhile, 2 rescue dogs who were part of the rescue team did not show up as they must undergo quarantine after returning home.
12 days after the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, rescue teams are still finding people alive. These are the latest pictures from Turkey, where we don't have much information about the person on a stretcher, but we know they had been missing for 296 hours. That is well over 12 days. A man was taken to hospital in Hatay late yesterday after 278 hours trapped under rubble. Istanbul Fire Brigade managed to pull out Hakan Yasinoglu. The man in his 40s is one of the lucky ones. Experts say most rescues occur within a day, but a teenage girl was saved 15 days after a quake in Haiti in 2010. At least 45,000 people are known to have died in the disaster in Turkey and Syria. Another problem is flooding. Water levels of the Karasu stream have increased in the Hatay province, that is, causing disruption for farmers and villagers. The director of China's Office of the Foreign Affairs Commission, Wang Yi, has criticized the United States over its handling of the balloon saga, saying its overreaction demonstrated its prejudice towards Beijing. Meanwhile, the U.S. said it has concluded recovery efforts to collect debris from an alleged Chinese balloon shot down by a fighter jet. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The United States said it has successfully concluded recovery efforts off the South Carolina coast to collect debris from an alleged Chinese surveillance balloon shot down by an American fighter jet on February 4th. The last of the debris is heading to an FBI laboratory in Virginia for analysis. The balloon, which Beijing denies was a government spy vessel, spent a week flying over the United States and Canada before US President Joe Biden ordered it to be shot down. The episode has strained ties between Washington and Beijing, with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken postponing a planned trip to China. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said it was not the right time for US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to travel to China, and that prospective talks between US President Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping have yet to be scheduled.
We don't believe it's the appropriate time right now for Secretary Blinken to travel to Beijing, and you heard the president that he will want to have another conversation with President Xi, as you might expect that he would, but we don't have anything on the schedule right now, and we'll have to do that at the time when the president believes it's appropriate.
Kirby added that the lines of communication between the US and Chinese military are unfortunately closed, but that the US Secretary of State still has an open line of communication with China's foreign minister. Wang Yi, director of China's Office of the Foreign Affairs Commission, said in Germany that the US should show some sincerity in resolving the issue. He said the balloon entered US territory purely by accident and the issue should be handled with common sense. But the US overreacted by using military force, which showed Washington's prejudice towards China. Dan Morel, TVB News.
Reports say Brazil's new president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, will meet President Xi Jinping on March 28th on Lula's first trip on his current term to China. The growing economic relationship between the two countries became clear in 2004 when Lula first visited China with a large delegation that included 450 Brazilian business representatives. China became Brazil's largest trading partner in 2009. Lula will stay in Beijing for 4 days for talks on trade, investments and the war in Ukraine. Still ahead on tonight's news, top diplomats meet in Germany in security conference that's dominated by Ukraine. Many world leaders and top diplomats are meeting in Germany for a Munich security conference. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has spoken of the need for international solidarity to help Ukraine's war effort. China's top diplomat Wang Yi said attacks on Ukraine's nuclear power plants must be prevented. The three-day event kicked off with a video message from Ukraine's president. David Garrett reports.
A year is a long time in global security. This is Bucha near Kiev, where relatives come to grieve another victim of the war. The senior lieutenant who died had been fighting Russia for most of the last decade. 12 months ago, here at the Munich Security Conference, a Russian invasion of Ukraine was just days away. Then President Volodymyr Zelensky warned delegates to act quickly. The Ukrainian leader is not there this time, but he opened the conference with a message via video link.
Delayed decisions of the world are a resource. Putin's dictatorship lives on. It's been that way for years. The longer the talks about the enlargement of the European Union dragged on, the more destructiveness the Kremlin brought to the then gray zone between the European Union and Russia. The louder it was said that it was necessary to wait before Ukraine was allowed to enter NATO's open door, the more aggressive Russian policy became.
The United States has sent its top diplomats, as have many European allies. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, and US Vice President Kamala Harris held talks with Chancellor Olaf Scholz. The host vowed to continue supporting Ukraine.
The most important effect in this case is that Putin learns that it is a miscalculation if he thinks he can just stick to this course as long as necessary and then we will stop our support. This will not happen.
How is everything?
Wonderful. How are you?
French President Emmanuel Macron also spoke with the US Vice President.
We have talked about so many issues of the moment and the future over the course of our visits, and to see you again here in Munich and talk about, as a priority, our commitment as a partner to the people of Ukraine and many other issues.
Macron has said it is important to intensify support for Ukraine in the crucial months of fighting ahead. Russia and Iran are not present, though they have been previously invited. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is expected to speak on Saturday, where he will call for NATO standard capabilities. He'll say protecting Ukraine's sovereignty is the only route to lasting peace. President Joe Biden will travel to Poland next week, but has no plans to cross into Ukraine, the White House have said. David Garrett, TVB News.
Beijing's top diplomat Wang Yi is attending the Munich Security Conference as part of a 5-country European tour to restart exchanges and strengthen ties between China and Europe. In his meeting with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Wang said Beijing is ready to expand cooperation with Germany and other European countries. Tracy Furness has more.
Wang Yi, director of Beijing's office of the Foreign Affairs Commission, met with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz Friday while attending the first day of the 59th Munich Security Conference. Wang told the German leader that China has overcome the impact of the COVID pandemic and its economy is recovering strongly. Wang also said China is ready to expand cooperation with Germany and other European countries. He added both sides should support multilateralism and free trade. Scholz said he supports developing economic and trade relations with China. He added that strong bilateral ties are conducive to global stability and prosperity. In a meeting with the German Foreign Affairs Minister Annalena Baerbock, Wang said that safeguarding world peace and promoting global development serves the common interests of the two countries. Baerbock and Germany stands ready to strengthen communications and coordination with China on international affairs. She also said challenges such as the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change show that global issues need to be addressed jointly.
It's been too long. I've missed you.
Wang also met with Pakistani Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari on the sidelines of the conference. Wang said China would support Pakistan in maintaining security and stability, as well as achieving development and revitalization. Wang arrived in Munich after visiting France and Italy. He will travel next to Hungary and Russia. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Back locally, Vice Chairman of the Basic Law Committee, Maria Tam, said the Article 23 legislation must go on. Still, she said it's way less urgent to go ahead with the legislation compared to 2 years ago. Tam said today that according to her understanding, a lot of preparatory work is done. She added the timing of pushing ahead with the legislation may depend on whether there are any amendments of the national security laws overseas. The pro-Beijing heavyweight said the city's law and order is back on track, adding it's way less urgent to legislate Article 23. The Education University of Hong Kong is running a 10-week-long home economics course in a bid to advance the domestic science knowledge of the city's teachers. The program also attempts to reverse the decline of home economics education by offering participants professional certificates. Timothy Lee has more.
Shedding their identities as teachers temporarily and adopting the guise of students, these participants of the Education University's Professional Development Program are taking the first steps and becoming the future beacons of home economics in Hong Kong. It is part of the university's attempt to bring about a new approach to home economics and technology teaching, with a strong emphasis on science. Those who complete the 10-week-long course will be given a professional development certificate, which serves as a qualification for their expertise on home economics. Dr. Eric Poon of the university's Department of Health and Physical Education noted that another reason for the creation of the program was the city's demand for manpower in this educational field.
Our program has stopped for more than 10 years, so to cope with the shortage of home economics teachers, so our university has decided to launch this professional development program again in order to nurture the new generation of home economic teachers. We hope through this 10-week PDP program, we can instill them the latest knowledge in home economics, which cover the area of, for example, food and nutritional science, as well as family studies.
One lesson took place inside a classroom kitchen, where the participants learn about scientific basics of baking, such as the fermentation and growth of yeast. Lecturer Francis Chow stressed that the hands-on approach is important for instilling the scientific knowledge behind daily activities and chores at home.
Throughout these years, it began to change, it began to evolve. It evolved from maybe 20 or 30 years ago. Now maybe we are just following steps and procedures from recipe manuals. Now, right now, I think that we are more encouraging students to think more about what is the principle, underlying principle right behind it. Now, such as, for example, the pizza. The pizza is a very good example for a lot of science behind it, food science behind it. Now, the fermentations of the yeast, why will the yeast grow? Now, what we want is that we want our students to incorporate these science into their daily lives, so that they understand what they are doing.
Today, students of the home economics course are taught how to make a delicious pizza. Besides the Italian round dish, participants will also get to take part in a leather workshop and visit a soy sauce factory in the coming weeks. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.